evening, everyone. My name is April Williams Luster. I'm the District Outreach Manager for Congresswoman Robin Kelly, and I would like to welcome you today to our SBA, our Small Business Economic Development Advisory Committee social media webinar. Congresswoman Kelly?
Thank you so much, April. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this discussion about the importance of having a strong social media presence and digital strategy for your small business. I would especially like to thank our presenter, Jesse Erickson, for volunteering his time to share his expertise with you all today. Jesse is a business and marketing strategist at Pathfinder, which is a full-service creative and marketing agency with the mission to provide strategic storytelling to its clients. Throughout the past 10 to 12 years, we have witnessed the rise of social media. What first began as platforms where individuals connect, the possibilities of what can be done with social media have now far exceeded our original expectations. At a time when consumers are increasingly shopping online, I know I am, unfortunately, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is more important than ever that your businesses have a strong digital presence to meet people where they are. Social media platforms have updated their interfaces to make it easier for businesses to connect with consumers, and I hope you all will learn something today about how to put your best digital foot forward and expand the reach of your business. So thank you, Jesse. Thank you, April, for all of your work, and thank all of you for joining us today. I am now going to turn things over to Jesse to get us started. Thank you.
Thanks, Congresswoman. All right, so today I'm going to go through some of the basics of social media for your business. I'm going to kind of present a small presentation. Please feel free to put questions in the chat as we go along, and I'll take periodic pauses to kind of go through those so we don't get too far ahead, and then obviously questions at the end. I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to start kind of talking through all of the different social media platforms that are out there, and then we're going to kind of drill in and focus a little bit more. So 1 second while I share my screen here. Okay, April, are we good? Can you see everyone see that?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, great. So first, I think the biggest question for everyone is, what platform should we even be using? Obviously, we have kind of the big platforms that everyone knows about, the Facebooks and LinkedIns and Instagrams of the world, but every day, every week, there seems to be a new social media platform of some sort, something that people say, you should really be on this, or you should really be thinking about this for your business. Or you should just try this out as an individual. And it's becoming really crowded and sometimes confusing for our business owners to kind of figure out what they should be using.
Oh, okay.
So first of all, the big ones are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Those are the kind of the big four. And then after that, Pinterest and YouTube are fairly popular. I think YouTube is actually not considered a social platform, but it's become more of one over time. After that, you kind of get into Reddit and Snapchat. TikTok is the big one from this past year. And then we've got a handful of messaging apps that people are jumping into, like WhatsApp, which was just purchased by Facebook a few years ago, Facebook Messenger, and a handful of others. So it gets really crowded. It's very hard for business owners to kind of stay on top of what is going to work best for their business. So that's what we're kind of going to dive into today. And let me start by just saying you shouldn't be on every platform. That's way too much for any one business to handle unless you're a really large company. And not all of them are useful to you. Your target audience is not necessarily on all of these platforms. So I just encourage you to really think about, where is my target audience going to really be, and let that kind of dictate what platforms you try to use. So Facebook, the very first, oldest social media site that really is still lasting. They're the largest platform at 2.5 billion users currently. This is really, if you're not sure what to use, Facebook is probably the best place to start. It's especially good for consumer-based businesses. If you're selling to consumers, if you have a shop or a gym or a bakery or something like that, Facebook is definitely where you are going to want to start. Facebook is really useful for getting people to share your content, and it's your really best bet at getting new followers and engagement right off the bat. Probably all of your friends and family are on there. They're often people that can share your initial content and start to get the word out about your business. Important to note, Facebook is actually programmed to allow for video to be seen by more people, photo and graphics after that, and then plain text. So if you're on Facebook, video is definitely where everything is heading, and you really need to think about that, as I know most entrepreneurs don't necessarily do video unless they're doing something like a Facebook Live, which I know also a lot of entrepreneurs like myself are still uncomfortable with. But video is definitely the thing that's going to get you the most bang for your buck. Second, Instagram, which was also purchased by Facebook, is one of the second biggest and growing social platforms. There's over 1 billion users currently, and it's growing very quickly. The thing with Instagram is that's a slightly younger user base. Now, slightly younger doesn't mean teenagers, even though most teenagers are on there, but definitely a lot of the older generation are not using Instagram as much as, say, Facebook. So just something to keep in mind. Instagram relies heavily on visuals. So when you go to your Instagram feed, it is all photos, all graphics, all video. So if you are an especially aesthetic business, if you have, beautiful cupcakes or a cool product, or gyms really do well in that, any kind of related exercise type business, those all do really well. Their cafes do really well there. Any type of product business, really. If you are more of a business-to-business model, you may not do as well on Instagram. So let's just put that out there right at the beginning. I'm a business-to-business company that I work in, but we do a lot of creative work. So we're on Instagram, but we don't really get as much engagement on Instagram. Instagram is really focused on simplistic design as well. Something you may not know is that photos or designs that have a lot of negative space, which is just kind of a plain color on the sides, for instance, or a more dominant color such as a blue, really primarily, they'll actually generate more than 20% more engagement than other photos of, say, a picture of your dog, or just a picture of your office space or something like that. Instagram also is a place to use a lot more hashtags than a Facebook. And that's the best way to generate new followers. And the reason for that is that Instagram is not as friendly to sharing posts as Facebook is. So that actually limits your ability to find new users. So if you are a business that's selling online, for instance, using hashtags and finding your tribe, your customer base is really going to be useful to you. Okay. If you are in a business-to-business business, such as myself, LinkedIn is really the place that you want to put your primary focus. It has 740 million users currently, and most people on that platform engage more than other platforms. They're professionals, they're looking to do more business, they're looking for solutions and customers. The other thing too is that a lot less content is actually being shared on LinkedIn. Though there's a lot of users on LinkedIn, a lot of them aren't sharing content. Compared to, say, a Facebook. What that means is you have a way greater chance of being seen. And that's really important, especially, again, if you are selling to other businesses. If you're selling to consumers primarily, like if you're a restaurant, at-home product, those kinds of things, this platform is not going to be as useful to you, but that doesn't mean that you should ignore it, especially if you're in the market for new employees, because most new hires can come out of LinkedIn. You might be able to find your next person there. You may also be able to engage with other companies. You may be able to think about a new model for your business that adheres to a lot of business people. So this is something not to ignore, but it's not going to be as popular to you as some of the others. The last one I'm going to dive deeper into is Twitter, which has been around a long time, but it is a smaller platform. This is one that a lot of small businesses struggle with because they don't know how to use it, or maybe they just shouldn't be using it. So there's about 192 million users, and the slant on user base is older. So there's not a lot of teenagers on here. If you're selling to teens or younger people in college, this is probably not the platform for you. It's better for a lot of short content and more often. So whereas Facebook will actually punish you for posting more than once a day if you're under a certain number of followers, Twitter, you can kind of share all day and they will keep allowing your posts to go through. But Twitter is a really good place for businesses, especially if you are in the city or if you're in a higher population area. You'll find more users there who are on Twitter who are looking for your business. Also, if you do a lot of blogging, this is a really great place to get those links out. So if you are on Twitter or think that that's going to be useful for you, you really need to focus on building your follower count by getting retweeted, which is really just sharing, getting people to share your post, and engaging with your followers. You can use this to drive more traffic to your blog or website, and hashtags are much more prominent on this social site as well. Okay, just a couple quick tips, and then we're going to kind of dive into Facebook a little more in depth. There's a couple things that I think a lot of people really struggle with social media. Not all social platforms are created equal. There is a lot of differences between them, and there's a lot of different ways that those platforms are using your post that you're sharing. And so it's really, you need to be mindful of that because, for instance, like I mentioned earlier, Facebook will actually, if you're under 10,000 followers, I think it is right now, and you post 3 times a day, they'll actually show all 3 of those posts to less people. So Facebook is not the place to be sharing multiple times per day. Very different story on Twitter, like we talked about. So you kind of need to be aware of these rules if you're going to use these as one of your primary marketing sources, and that's really hard for people to keep up with. As kind of a follow-up to that, you also need to just think about, again, where is my audience? I can't drill down on that enough. If your audience is consumers, LinkedIn is not where you're going to find them, so on and so forth. I see a lot of businesses, you go to their website and they'll just have like 5+ icons to all their social media sites. And that's really something you need to stay away from. Secondly, over time, things have started to change. From an SEO's perspective, how you are viewed on a search engine like Google, social media is starting to have an impact on that. Meaning that if you set up a Facebook page, for instance, and you don't fill in all the information and you don't post on there very frequently, Google is going to start recognizing that, and they're going to start punishing you for that from an SEO perspective. So this is becoming more and more important. Consumers are also looking for you, and if you have a Facebook page up that hasn't been posted to since 2017, they're going to see that and they're going to think, I wonder if they're closed. I wonder if they're out of business. I wonder if I can even go there anymore. And they're going to move on from you. So the first little tip here, which I actually don't have on this slide, is just purely, if you're not going to use social media, don't have a page lingering out there. Don't create one just to create one if you're not going to keep up with it. That will do more harm than it will help you. Back to the slide though, do use social media platforms to promote your business. This, like everyone knows, this is becoming more and more prominent in our world today, especially with the pandemic. Social media has even changed in this past year, and we can dive into that a little bit. But you really want to show that you're a real business. You want to show why people are going to want to engage with you. And when they do, when they comment on your post, when they share your thing, those kinds of engagement activities, do engage with them back, comment back. It shows that you're a real business. It shows that you're paying attention to your customers, and it will create loyalty. But also do be ready to adapt and change. So this year is a really great example of that. This past year, everyone flocked to social media and digital marketing, even if they've never done it before, just because of the pandemic and realizing, this is a situation that's going to last some period of time. It's destroying our previous business model, and we really need to engage with this. So as many of you have probably already learned, engaging with your users is really important and adapting. One thing that did happen this past year is that algorithms changed once again. Social media sites will change their algorithms on how content is viewed, and that's affecting people. So besides that, more and more people than ever have been online. We've been at home, we've been on our computers, we've been working from home, and therefore there's a lot more people on social media. Kids are out of school, or rather doing school from home. For a while, some of them were just out of school. So they're all kind of engaging a lot more. What this means is that there's also a lot more stuff being shared on social by businesses and by other people. And what that means for you is that the level of visibility that you may have gotten 2 years ago is not necessarily the level of visibility you're going to get today. I have a lot of social media clients, and I can tell you that all of their reach and impressions on their posts dropped quite a bit about April last year. And that has not changed. We expect a higher amount of impressions, but still a lower amount than they were getting prior to the pandemic. Will that change back? It's really hard to tell at this point. As we talked about, don't try to use every platform, especially at first. If you're new to social media, pick one that's going to be the best for your business. That might be LinkedIn, that might be Facebook, that might be Instagram. Just start with that until you kind of get a regular cadence. That could be every day, that could be 3 times a week, it could be twice a week, but try to get in the habit of sharing something regularly. Don't spend lots of money on ads. So if you've ever seen the Facebook ads for themselves trying to get you to spend on that, same on Instagram and other sites, don't spend lots of money on that. Don't be tempted. They're going to tell you, we're going to be able to, if you spend $5, get this in front of 1,000 eyeballs. Well, those 1,000 people may not be the people that you want to see your posts. They may not be people living next to your local business. And you will get the eyeballs, but they may not be the customers that you want. And when that happens, you just really end up spending a lot of money. I've had clients come to me before we worked with them, and they'll tell me things like, oh, we spent $1,000 last month on ads and had no new sales. Well, that's devastating to a small business, and it's just not something that's usually worth your time. If you do want to use ads or feel like they could be beneficial to your business, I highly encourage you to get some expert help. Don't use the platform just to be trendy. This happened a lot this past year with TikTok, which was a big conversation topic, not just from a social media standpoint, but also from a governmental standpoint, as it was almost banned this year. TikTok is a very trendy platform. Is it here to stay? I think the jury's still out on that. But TikTok is also based around music, and locally there's a kind of business that is completely unrelated to music. They do like car repairs, and they do TikTok, and it's just not useful for their business. I don't know why they're spending the time on it. So don't just jump to the next new social media platform. Chances are they may not even be around in a few months, and it might have just not been worth your time. Last, don't focus on pushing sales. It rarely works. What does this mean? So if you've ever been sold to by a car salesman and they're just really trying to push you into it, that's what it feels like. So the Facebook pages that put out, we have a big 50% off sale, and they put this out like every day for weeks at a time, or they try to tag people in it and get their attention. Those kinds of things just don't work anymore. They used to work 10, 20 years ago, but people and consumers are smarter than ever. They're getting blasted with these kinds of advertisements and marketing every day. They've learned to kind of see what's real, what's not, who's a good business owner and who's not. These kinds of posting rarely work. The second thing is that social media sites are actually starting to punish those people for doing so, actually securing them less views and less eyeballs. For instance, right now, the big thing on Facebook is that if you actually type in your post telling people to share or to like this post, inherently it will be seen by less people. Facebook recognizes that and will actually show it to less people. Okay. So next, I'm going to kind of jump into Facebook pages a little bit more specifically. I chose Facebook to jump into a little bit more in depth, primarily because it is the biggest social site, and it usually is the one to start with. Facebook works for most people, works for most businesses, no matter what kind of business you are. Facebook is definitely the one probably to start with. So right off the bat, one of the biggest issues that I still see today is that people are not actually creating Facebook pages for their business. They will sometimes create a profile, which is really reserved for human beings, you, me. It's what my profile is, right? And they'll put in their business name somehow, and they'll put in a business picture. This is not doing you any favors. I see a lot of them. It's not treated like a business, and therefore you will not get the same amount of likes and friends and eyeballs that you want to. It's also very limited in the amount of tools you have. The Facebook pages, which is built for businesses, has a lot more tools to use. The second thing that if Facebook does catch you doing this, which they don't pay super close attention, but if they do find it, they can ban you for doing that. The second thing that I see a lot of is a lot of business owners will try to create a Facebook group, okay? Facebook groups are also very different things. They work differently. A Facebook page for your business can actually hold or create a group underneath it. And if your business needs a Facebook group for some reason, for instance, I've seen some gyms where people will buy into a subscription type thing. And especially over the pandemic, the gym owners would share something in that group private to that group of people who are paying. Those kinds of situations. Create that Facebook group underneath your page. Don't make that your only business page. So in this photo here is a screenshot of what this looks like when you do start to create a page. So this is what you should see. You can find that by clicking on the plus button in the top right corner over there where I have that drop down menu, and you can actually see there, you can create a page from there. Inherently, you also can create a group and a handful of other things. So this is what it looks like when you start to create that. Make sure when you create your Facebook page, you are filling out as much information as you possibly can that it's asking for, okay? Sometimes people think that some of these things are overkill, or why do I need to add, more than one category or tag or a description? And the reason is that Facebook looks positively the more on you, the more information you fill in. So does Google and a handful of other search engines. The more information you fill in, the better chance you are going to be found. The better chance people are going to follow you, the better chance that people are going to trust your business, which is the most important thing. So fill in as much information as possible. There are usually a couple things that don't really fit your business. For instance, Facebook right now is really pushing WhatsApp, and we'll ask you for a WhatsApp number for your business as a part of the page setup. I don't have one. I don't find that super useful. You might in your business, but that's one that you could skip. Once you have created your Facebook page, it should look similar to this. So this is my business page. You'll see over on the left-hand side a handful of different options, which I'll kind of walk through. But make sure that you've chosen an at name here, that you put in a picture, a cover photo up here. We'll get to this action button in a moment. Make sure that you filled in the type of business you are, and there's a handful of other options down there, such as phone number, email, contact information, things like that. Also, you'll notice here that there's a pinned post. This is a little feature that you can kind of use to put something at the top, even after you post more. So when my business created this video, we felt like that was really useful, and videos are also, as you know, seen by more people. So we pinned this at the top, and it's the first thing that people see when they come to our page, even if we've been posting, maybe a new blog we've written or some other piece of content. What that does is it just kind of helps add to the brand of your page and gives people a little bit of an introduction to who you are. So definitely use this pinned post feature to kind of help you brand your page and not just have the most recent thing up here. If you look on the left side, there's a handful of other tools. I'm going to walk through a few of them during this presentation. But there's a lot of tools over here and it gets really confusing. Just some quick tips. The Business App Store is not usually the place to start here. You'll also see the Ad Center. Like I said earlier, don't jump to the Ad Center. Facebook ads are not going to make or break your business, I promise. And then here's the edit page info if you missed a couple information things. This promote button will also get you to some of those ads that you don't necessarily want to do. Last, you can also do a Facebook Live directly from here if you are interested in that. Like I said before, video really does help. If your business is hosting an event, definitely create it from the page, not your personal profile, but from the page. There's also some offers if you're having a sale or a job posting if you are hiring. So those can be useful to you as well. Okay, the action button. So the action button is that big blue button in the top right corner if I go back. And what that does is usually, and by default, it's set as follow, which is shown on this list here. So if you want people to follow your page, they would click that button. You've probably seen this before. You've probably followed businesses before. What a lot of people don't know is that you can change what this action button does, and that might be really useful to you. So if you're just starting out, you got like, 10 followers, definitely just leave it on follow, start to build your brand, build the engagement with people until you have more followers. But if you've already built your business, if you've got 100 followers, 500 followers, so on and so forth, you might want to consider changing this button. And the reason for that is that you can actually get them to do a different action. And if you guys know from a sales perspective, you want people to get to you the easiest way possible. The quicker they can get to you, the more likely you are to engage with them and create a real lead or a real sale. So for instance, if my primary goal is to get them signed up for my email newsletter, I might click the sign up option. If my primary thing to do is to schedule an appointment with somebody, if I'm a hairstylist or something like that, oops. I might click the book now button if I have an online booking software. I might want my customers to just call my store or my number, and you can actually change the button to just be a call button so they can call right from that button there. There's a handful of other options here, but definitely this is something to pay attention to, especially as you grow your business. This might just help you close sales a little bit faster. They just added this one fairly recently, start order, where people can actually order food. So if you're a restaurant or something like that, especially again during pandemic times, that might be something that might be useful to you. Okay, so the page info. So you're gonna have an opportunity to fill this stuff out once you first start your page. But if you ever need to come and fill in more info, this is where it is located. This is ours, and what you'll notice is we actually went with kind of a slimmer description, and the reason for that is though you're not, there's a limitation in the amount of characters, but you don't necessarily want to put a big paragraph here. People just are not going to read it. Try to make this as simple as possible. Try to brand yourself using this description section, okay? The category section is extremely important as well. As Facebook search becomes more and more prominent, you're going to want to pick the items in the categories here that really describe who you are. So for us, it's marketing agency, web design, photography, and video. Okay, pick the ones that are most relevant to you. This is going to help you get found not just on Facebook, but also in Google search. You may have noticed in the past few years, as you do Google searches for things, the Facebook pages are coming up really fast and toward the top of the list. So these are the things you want to be doing. And again, can't iterate enough, fill out as much of this as possible. There's some additional stuff below this picture here. Okay, so you might all be wondering, what do I post? Maybe you guys struggle with posting stuff frequently. You're like, I just don't know what to write. I get stuck on this. I don't know what to do. Again, video is always seen more than other posts. If you're not doing video, even if it's just with your phone, right? We all have our smartphone. We can do a quick video. This is what you're going to want to start with. Take pictures, set up a product, put a little setting. The other thing too is to just set up, a little bit more lifestyle type photos with your business. If you have a store, how are your products used? If it's a restaurant, what new menu item are we putting out, or what's a special going on? Just take pictures of those and put those out, and just say this is a special, or this is something we're trying. Come in and check it out. Plain text posts, I just don't recommend really at all for businesses. This would just be text with no additional content. They just don't get seen very often, and they're not really worth it. I've seen some businesses that still do this. It just doesn't really get you what you want. In addition to these kind of basics, having relevant hashtags is useful to you on Facebook. Please don't hashtag bomb your post and put 100 of them just to put them. Find a couple that are really relevant or meaningful to your post or your business. So for a restaurant, that might be hashtag foodie. That's a big one. And Facebook will actually, as you start to type these in, will show you like how many people are following those. Getting people to share your posts is one of the most important ways to get your name out there. Facebook shares, and the more people that share it, mean way more people are going to see it. So if I share a post from a business, it's way more likely that all of my friends on Facebook are going to share it. If me and my wife, for instance, share the same thing, and we have friends that have us both on Facebook, they're even more likely to see that. So if you have, multiple friends in the same kind of groups, you can really get your business out there by encouraging sharing. Emojis in your post, if you don't overuse them, are also really useful to just kind of help your post stick out. So what we try to do a lot with some of our clients is just add a couple emojis in some of the posts here and there. It just kind of helps with the visibility as you're scrolling through. And if you think about yourself, when you're scrolling on Facebook, right, because we all do it, you might begin to recognize that your eyes are actually drawn to posts with an emoji more often than others. It's just kind of a statistic there. So definitely be paying attention to that and use them as appropriate. Last, quality content will always be seen more over time, okay? So please don't just post just the post. Try to come up with something good about your business. Try to come up with something useful to people. That's something that people really want to engage with or that they need to know. Back to kind of the ad salesman thought from a little while ago. If you're just selling every day, if you're just posting, come in and buy, we're 50% off, or, we really want you to buy this product, and you just kind of slam people with that, they'll probably just honestly unfollow your page. They're not interested in seeing that. So on the right side is a post that we did recently that received quite a bit of engagement. This is a video. We actually shared our logo design process and kind of walked through this. This is one of our finished logos. You can see that we're, got about a 500 person reach here. Not as much as I really want, but engagements are about 40, and that was really good. And that's, again, video. If this was a photo, it'd probably be, half that or something like that. Notice too, you can actually change some of the fonting in here. So we've like bolded this sentence. That also helps your post stick out. And then also remember that social media is just a means to an end, right? Social media in most cases is not your final product. It's not what people are buying from you. So you want to lead them somewhere else. And usually that's your website or, if you're a restaurant, maybe an online ordering menu or something like that. But you want to lead them somewhere else. You want to capture them, because if they're seeing posts, that's great. But from a sales perspective, you want to close that sale. So putting in a link to a page on your website, putting in a link to wherever you want them to go next, maybe to give you their email address or something like that. Include that in a lot of your posts as well. Okay, Facebook stories. So this is becoming way more popular. And you have also probably seen stories on Instagram, maybe on Snapchat, so on and so forth. Facebook stories are a way to get in front of more people more quickly. But there's a catch, and that's that the content disappears within 24 hours. So this is really used for things that are maybe a post that's leading them to a full post on your page. That's, for instance, what these are here. They might be just quick things. They're things you maybe could reshare. Another thing we do is when we have an event going on, when we're filming or when we're taking photos at one of our clients' events, we'll just do like a quick picture upload and say, here's where we're at and what we're doing, and that'll disappear within 24 hours. The reason why they're so useful from a marketing perspective, though, which I had to learn myself, is that stories have a way higher rate of engagement. So as you put up a story, you may have noticed as you log in personally to Facebook, you'll see those at the top of your feed as soon as you log in. So for my own business, even, I'll actually see those stories before I see a post, a regular post. And so that's why they're becoming more useful. Social media platforms are kind of putting them right up front and center. So you're way more likely to get more engagement. Just remember, again, stories are supposed to be more genuine and authentic. They're supposed to be a little bit more about not the craftfully written or designed post, but they're just, here's something that's happening right now. Here is a special thing going on in our store. Here is a food thing that just happened, you know, and it looks really cool, and we just put that out. Here is something going on at our gym, you know, right now. Here's something that just happened in our office. I saw a business had someone dress, I think the woman at their front desk dress up as the Easter Bunny, right? And they didn't want to make a big post out of that, but they just put it as a social story, and, you know, disappear after 24 hours. But it just received a lot of engagement because it was like, oh, what's going on right now, right there? People want to feel like they're a part of something going on right now. So that's what Facebook stories are for. I say all that just because stories are becoming much more popular. Again, stories are probably not the place to start if you're completely new to this. You need to build a page following first. Okay, kind of the last big thing I wanted to hit before we go to some Q&A time. Facebook Insights. So this is another menu item on that left-hand side in that big long list that we showed earlier. Facebook Insights are the biggest part of your page. You can put out 1 million posts. You can see that people are, you know, eyeballs are on them. But if you're not really looking at your insights, you don't really know what that means for your business. You know, some people would say that all marketing is good marketing, or all advertising is good, or PR. But that's not always true. And if you're putting out stuff that's just not doing well and you're not seeing an increase, you need to be aware of that and then make changes to kind of complement that, right? So looking at these metrics, sometimes this is confusing to people, so I'm going to walk through a little bit. First and foremost, I think one of the biggest questions people have are, what does reach really mean? What does impression mean? And so on. So Facebook reach or post reach is really how many people are actually seeing your content. So they have viewed it in some way. It was in their news feed. They went to your page. They saw that a friend shared it, you know, something like that. Impressions is slightly different. Impressions are the number of times your content is displayed on a screen, okay? So that might be, you know, someone quickly scrolled by it. It might be that a person has seen this content more than one time, and that's included in the impressions number, okay? So they might go to your page, for instance, 3 times in one day, and those each count for impressions and they don't count for reach, if that makes more sense. And then engagement is how many people are liking or clicking or viewing or interacting with your post or content. So this means that not only did it, you know, kind of come through their feed, but they actually did something with it. So if you've got a video, that means that they viewed it, they listened to it. If you see post likes or loves or things like that, that would count here. If they clicked on a link in your post, that would count here. If they commented, that would count on engagement. So understanding these 3 different things is really important, and it does get a little confusing. But if you look at this data here, what you'll find, this is one of our clients, is that what you want is obviously these numbers to go up. You'll see like some big pops, and what you really want to do is find where this peak was, right? What post was that? Was it a video? Was it a piece of content that people really engaged with? Find where those peaks are, what people really are looking at on your page, and do it again. So if it was a video, probably do another video. If it was, you know, maybe you posted a picture and you had a question for your customers and people were answering in the comments, right? Do that again. Find another question to ask. So on and so forth. So find those peaks, kind of look at what you're doing and see what's working. But this data is really important. This is a very simplistic version. Facebook will actually let you view data from, you know, a year plus ago, over time, month to month. and download that so you can look at that and really see how you're doing over time. And if you're doing something right, you should see kind of a slow, incline. You might see dips and you might see peaks, but you should overall just see a slow incline if you're doing the right things, okay? Now, the other thing too is to talk about these metrics. So reach and impressions, especially when you're starting out, are really important and really good. You want to see those numbers going up. However, engagement is really what you're looking for. If lots of people are seeing your posts because you have 5,000 followers, that's great. But if they aren't engaging with any, if you're getting like 0 likes and no comments, right? That's not really good for your business, because what's happening there is you're never actually making it to a point where people are really interested in what you're doing, which probably means they're not going to buy anything from you, which is really the thing that you're going for here. So really pay attention to the engagement, especially. This is the thing that you have to pay attention to the most and also adapt to the most. Okay. Okay, so that was kind of a brief and quick overview of Facebook, and I'm sure there's some questions. So April, I don't know if you've been receiving any, or if we want to just kind of have people ask now, but we can kind of jump into that.
No, I haven't received any questions in the Q&A. Does anybody have any questions? You can raise your hand, and then I will press on your mic. Or you can put it in the chat also.
And feel free to ask questions about, it doesn't have to be about Facebook, about any social site that was mentioned today or something like that would be fine too.
And then raise your, okay, Bloodman has a question. Go ahead, Bloodman, let me put, I thought I unmuted you. Ask to unmute.
Are we good now?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, April, for allowing me to speak. But one of the questions I have is like, regarding social media, you're on LinkedIn, Facebook. Now I know you're addressing Facebook right now, but if you have the Instagram and the Twitter as like 4 accounts that you may manage, is there a way that your website for your business or organization can post something on your website that will go to all 4 of those without you having to duplicate each separate?
Yeah, so there are ways to do that. There's software to do that, such as Hootsuite is one, Hootsuite. Buffer is another that I'm pretty familiar with. One little word of warning, the different social platforms are actually distancing themselves from one another, and the content is being posted differently. So for instance, I might post a picture on Facebook and it might show up just fine. And then, I'll see it's posted on Instagram and it will look distorted or stretched or cut off, okay? So what's happening right now is that a lot of the sizing of different things and whatnot is looking a little different. Secondly, people are engaging with content differently on those social sites. So again, if I post, for instance, maybe an event coming up and I'm at my business and I'm posting that on Facebook, for instance, that's going to show up differently on Instagram, and Instagram's going to treat that post differently. So if I share a picture of maybe a little flyer that I made with a lot of words on it, that's actually going to hurt you on some of these different social sites, because they'll actually look at photos, and if there's a lot of words in the photos, you'll be viewed by less people. So those pieces of software to do what you're asking for definitely exist. Lots of people use them. I would just caution you to be careful about, where we're sharing certain content versus others. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't share the same kind of information on those different sites. You probably should, but it's just a matter of thinking like, here's how Facebook handles this and here's how LinkedIn handles this. And I just need to craft that post a little bit differently depending on where I'm sharing it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You have another question, Bloodman?
Yeah, I'm glad he said that, because I was talking to one of my, we discussed things like that with my marketing committee on how we share things, and somebody had brought up that, and I'm glad he said that, because now I know that's not the way I'm going to make sure that we approach it. But the other thing too is I know that there are different age groups that are on different platforms. So is there a way that you would suggest that you word things on one compared to the other ones that you're on? Can you give us an example?
Like from
Yeah,
Instagram to Facebook?
sure. Let me just think about that for just a second. So yes, in general, there are different age groups. However, the big four kind of have a pretty solid group of all age groups. But as I mentioned earlier, you know, LinkedIn, for instance, you're not going to find any teenagers on there. Twitter, you're going to find, you know, mostly a little bit older group. So definitely, you should really just be thinking about who you're targeting. You know, if you're saying it's anyone that's 18 and older from any age group, well, then you just need to kind of write your content.
Gotcha.
We need to write this content differently. On Facebook, you know, that's more, again, slightly older leaning social media site. So you might post toward that generation. Might be different. So as an example, if I'm having an event and I want a mix of different kinds of people there, you know, on Facebook, I might just create an event and share the information and start to share that with whoever's on Facebook, right? And that might work really well. But let's say this event is a community event and we want a lot of teenagers to show up too, or kids. And we're going to target Instagram to do that. Well, in order to grab their attention, you know, an event poster really just isn't enough, right? Kids' heads are all over the place these days. They're seeing all kinds of things thrown at them. What you need to do is really focus on how you're capturing their attention, right? So an event poster that, you know, plain white paper with information might do great for a 40-year-old, but it's not going to capture organization or business does. But you just kind of got to think about how you're sharing that. I would say that younger generation also is looking more at stories. So sharing stuff on stories on Facebook and Instagram would be a good start as well. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate that. You know, we target more business entities than others, but we do have a lot of organizations that are nonprofits, and some of them are youth organizations. So I'm sure that information will really appreciate it, and you know, when we share that with them as well. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Thank you.
Yeah, if you have other questions, my email's down there. You can send me some specifics if you'd like.
Does anyone else have any questions? Please raise your hand. Okay. It looks like we don't have any questions. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say I could just briefly go back to kind of that overview. So, you know, if we want to just kind of briefly hit some of these other ones more in depth, maybe. Some of you have probably heard of these, some of you haven't. You know, again, you know, we mentioned TikTok was like the really big social site this year that really hit its stride and got a lot of followers and was entertaining content. This is still one. I think some business owners are successful with using it, especially if they have a business where they're really engaging directly with consumers. But again, it's one that, you know, if you're doing business to business or anything like that, I just recommend staying away from. Snapchat is another like that. If you're targeting teens or your younger people specifically, Snapchat can be useful to you, but the platform itself is just not really built for doing business very well. And they're trying to break more into that. But I've seen some business owners really try this, and I just continue to see that it's not a really great investment. On the other hand, if you are a business that has, again, product, or if you're a crafty type of business or some things like that, Pinterest might be a really big one for you. So for instance, there's a business locally, they sell kits of crafts for kids, right? And Pinterest is a really great site for them because moms are on there. They're looking for these kinds of things for their kids. Families are on there looking for things to do, especially when they're stuck at home, right? And there's less events for them to go to. And so Pinterest might be a really big deal for them, and it might be for you as well. So I wouldn't ignore some of these other ones we didn't really talk about today. I just say that be really aware of how they're used. The messaging apps are another great example. Not usually initially considered social media, but they're starting to build out these business platforms, which are becoming more and more useful for businesses. So if you've dipped your toes into that, that might be useful to you. The other thing I would just say is, remember, as you create these social sites, people are looking to engage with your business, okay? That means if you create let's just say a YouTube channel, right? They're gonna be looking for content there. And again, I'll just repeat myself, don't create these sites if you're not gonna use them. If you're gonna create a YouTube page, awesome. If that means you're gonna do a lot of video content, be ready to do that. It's easier than ever to create video content just on your own without the help of another larger company or something like that that does video. But just be aware that you need to continue to post there and create that interest. The other thing too is, I often in our own business find that people, where I'm going to find somebody is anyone's guess. They might reach out to me on Facebook. They might go to my website. They might go to our LinkedIn, and they're going to message me wherever they found me. If I'm not paying attention to those messages, I'm really likely to lose that sale, right? If I ignore those messages for 3 days because I'm not looking at my LinkedIn, right, I'm probably going to lose that sale, probably going to lose that lead. So just, again, if you're going to kind of jump into this and really try to use social media for your marketing, have a plan. Figure out what you're going to do. Do not do everything. Doing everything is a really great way to ensure that you do a lot of nothing. So.
Okay, do we have any questions? Let's see what's over. Well, thank you very much, Jesse, for, like I said, the social media basics, what to do and what not to do, and how to get started on social media. That's a lot of help. I know for a lot of, especially since the new normal. If
The new normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new normal that everybody has discovered online and Facebook. A lot of, especially older people, they're now discovering social media.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
businesses online and looking at websites to see if they should get this. I know my mother's calling me like every day. How do I look up so-and-so? How do I order so-and-so? So yes, everybody's looking at social media.
It's a great point. Yeah, there's more people than ever, and they're looking at it more often. So.
And tomorrow we'll also be having a webinar with Summer Coleman, and she'll be talking about branding and how to put together your website. So that'll be good for us tomorrow. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And if you want to register for the webinar tomorrow, please go on our website, Congresswoman Kelly's website, and go to events, and you can register for the website tomorrow also.